want to begin on our classes in a serious way. So we are beginning with the first session in our online graphic design course. So in this online graphic design course, the course has been broken into around 6 segments or 6 sections. You are going to get to understand those sections later on, but I'll be part of the training. I'll be the one guiding you during the entire training, and hopefully my other colleagues will join in later on. So today, this is what we plan to look at. We plan to look at the course breakdown, and then we shall begin by understanding what graphic design is. We shall look at also the visual elements that create what we call graphic design. We shall understand the key principles of design, and then we shall look at line as an element in graphic design. And then by the end of the session, I will leave you with a simple assignment, very, very simple. Are we together?
Okay.
I hope you are not worried about the assignment. You shouldn't be worried because it's going to be very, very simple. And it is related to what we are going to go through. So I don't know what you are going to be doing. Should I be giving you like a minute or two to copy some key things that you'd like?
Okay.
Like in this particular slide, do you need to copy this information?
Will you help me the picture?
I'm not sure, or it depends on your side what you want. But this is like a summary of the breakdown of today's lesson, or today's session.
Okay.
So should I go to the next slide, or I give you some 1 minute?
1 minute.
Okay. Okay, let me give you a minute as you are copying.
I'm done. Yes.
Are you free?
I'm done. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, so I hope you are done.
Mm.
Now, on your screen, you are seeing the
Yes.
breakdown of the entire course.
Okay. Mm.
I told you the course is going to be subdivided into 6 sessions.
Mm.
So as you can see, there is section 1. We're going to learn
Mm.
what we call the graphic design theory. Then in section 2, we shall understand what it takes to consider graphic design as a career. In case you're planning
Yes.
to take it on as your next career in your life, you shall understand what does it take, what are the best practices, what things are you supposed to do in order for you to really benefit out of graphic design as your career. And then we shall also look at what we call becoming a graphic designer. What steps do you undertake in order for you to become a better graphic designer? Because already graphic designers are there, but then you just need to become a better graphic designer that is going to be marketable and liked by clients. So in each of this is like a topic, but there are subtopics inside it. Are we together?
Yes. Mr. George.
So section 1 is about graphic design theory. We are going to learn a lot about graphic design theoretically before we start implementing it practically using the other design.
Mm.
Before we start learning Adobe Illustrator, for example, you need to understand what are the basic principles that you need to follow before you even start designing. There are key things, there are key principles that you need to follow. So those principles, you are going to learn them in this topic called graphic design theory.
Yes.
Okay. Then up next, in section 4, we shall learn graphic design and beyond. There are so many things about graphic design that we need to learn. Okay. So we shall explore details as far as graphic design industry is concerned. And then that will push us to the practical session, hands-on session, where we are going to do practical work using computer. We are going to learn design software like Adobe Illustrator. That is section 5. We shall learn how to design with Adobe Illustrator. And then we shall also do what we call branding, still using Adobe Illustrator. Then we shall end the entire course with section 6, where we shall learn design and photo editing. There are 2 things that we are going to learn with Adobe Photoshop. That is designing and what we call photo editing. Yeah. So it means Photoshop, Adobe Photoshop can help you to design something, some artwork, like can design maybe a flyer, maybe a poster, okay, maybe a banner. You can design it with Adobe Photoshop, but at the same time, you should be able to work on pictures. You should be able to edit pictures. You should be able to edit pictures, and they become nice pictures and professional pictures, which are ready for printing. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So today, our main point of focus is understanding the core things about graphic design, because today mainly we are looking at graphic design as a topic, and we are looking at it in a theoretical perspective. So we need to understand what we call graphic design.
But graphic design.
Yeah. So as you see on the screen, if you try to Google, if you try to Google will give you that answer. Google will tell you graphic design is the art or skill of combining text and pictures, advertisements, magazines, or books. That is a simple definition that Google will give you. Can you kindly help me repeat that answer that Google will give us in case we try to search for the definition of graphic design?
Is the art or skill of combining text and pictures in either magazine or books.
Yeah, so that is Google's perspective of graphic design. But then I will also give you my own perspective according to my experience. According to my experience in the graphic design industry. Me, I feel this is a shallow way of defining graphic design. Okay. So, so my perspective of graphic design is graphic design is subdivided into two items. There is graphic. Graphic design is subdivided into two items, and that is graphic and the design. So there are two words which are forming one word. Okay.
Graphic and design.
Yeah. So graphic and design, they form what we call graphic design. Yeah. So that's how the word graphic design is formed. And just let me just go behind one more step. So when you look at these two words, we have the word graphic and design. So when you combine the two of them, they give you the term graphic design. Not so?
Yes.
However, we are going to break each of these terms and we understand what is the contribution of each word in this whole word called graphic design. So we are going to look at graphic first. And graphic simply means something that is visual, something that you can see with your eyes. Okay? So
yes,
graphic is art. It can be art, like you told me you are an artist, you did art. So
yes, art.
Graphic is art. Graphic is something like an imagination, something like an expression involving many mediums, such as drawing, painting, engraving, or lettering, giving clear and explicit detail. So that is what we call graphic. So you realize that in graphic design, we have items, we have concepts, or we have imaginations, which which can be expressing something, which can be used to express something to the sight of the people who are viewing it. And those things can be expressed in different mediums. And those mediums may be drawings, maybe you can draw something, okay? And yet you want to communicate something through that drawing. You can paint something, and yet you want to explain to the person looking at that painting. You want to communicate to the person looking at that painting. You can engrave. Do you know what we call engraving? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, you can do what we call engraving. Engraving is like you dig holes, but when you are trying to create something that communicates something. For example, at the high school, most of the schools make tags for their prefects. Most of the schools make tags for their prefects, but those tags have got those tags have got what we call engraved information. So they usually put there the post of the prefect, maybe head prefect, then they put the name of the school and the head prefect. Okay. So those tags are a result of what we call engraving. Let me just search for something online. Let me search for engraved artwork.
Engraved.
Engraved artwork. Okay. So you can search on your Google and then you look at some engraved artwork.
Engraved.
Yeah.
Okay. Artwork.
So engraving is almost like digging holes. You create holes. You create holes on maybe a piece of metal or a piece of plastic, and you can put holes as we are trying to illustrate maybe a diagram of something, maybe a badge, a logo, or even just text. Okay. So like
the engraved work.
Just look at my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Okay. Yes.
Which one are you seeing exactly?
There's N21, 42. It's like a keyhole.
This one. Okay, so
Yeah.
do you see this information? Just a minute. Let me drag it. So do you see this artwork here? Let me try to.
Yes. Type of engraving.
So are you seeing around here? This is an example of engraved work. Okay. So you realize that there is this diagram here, but
it's like a tortoise.
Yeah. But it was just engraved on this metallic piece of metal, which is here. And then we have this text. So this is what we call engraving. Okay.
Yes.
So let's go back to our presentation. So when you think of graphic, just think of something which is visual, something that you can see, which can be art, which can be an imagination. You know, you can imagine something and then you draw it, or you paint, or you shade, just in order for you to communicate to someone. So that is what we call graphic. And then we have visual elements that create design. So remember we said graphic design is composed of graphic and design. Okay. So under graphic, we have said graphic contains maybe art, imagination. Yeah. So what you are thinking, about is what we call graphic, because after thinking about it, you can draw, you can paint in order for you to communicate to somebody that you want to reach out with your imagination. So anything that is visual is referred to as graphic. Are we together?
Mm.
Then we
Yes.
also have design. We also have what we call design. We also have what we call design. Okay. So we want to understand what we call design. So when it comes to design, when it comes to design, you just need to understand that before we talk about design, these are some of the elements that help us to create what we call a design. We have a line, we have a color. So when you think of something and you imagine and you want to communicate, you want to put it on maybe a piece of paper, on a piece of wood, you are going to use a line, you are going to use a color, you are going to use a shape, you are going to use a texture, you are going to use space, you are going to use a form, and you are going to use typography in order for you to portray your imagination.
Typography.
Typography is typing information and then laying that information in a colorful way or in a nice looking way through the use of different fonts, the use of different font sizes and different font designs. That is what we call typography.
It involves writing.
Yeah, it basically involves typing information, and then you modify the outlook of that information. So these are the elements that help you to create what we call a design. Because we say graphic is something that is visual. Then a design, these are the elements that you combine in order for you to come up with what we call
a design.
To come up with what we call a design. Trust me, whenever you are designing, you must always, you are going to rotate around these elements. You will either use a line, you will use a color, you will use a shape, you will use a texture, okay? In order for you to come up with your design. Are we together?
Yes.
However, the word design from the other graphic design, the word design simply refers to decide upon the look and the function of something before it is made. So just like we say, just like we say the graphic design is broken into graphic and design. So graphic contains your imagination, it contains your art, okay? So design for it consists of your decision upon the look and the function of something before it is made. Do you know that whenever somebody wants to print maybe information on a t-shirt, before that information is printed there, somebody has to decide, somebody has to make a decision on how the person wants the information to be printed in the t-shirt. Somebody will decide that I want this text to appear here, I want the logo to appear here, okay? I want
the image.
I want the image to appear like this. I want it on this size. That's why we are saying design is thinking, design is problem solving, and practicality. So whenever you are designing, just know that you are going to be thinking, and your thinking should be tailored to solving a problem. Which problem is communicating something, communicating an information to somebody looking at that a particular thing that you are going to use for designing. Okay, so design
Yes.
is to decide upon the look and the function of something before it is made. So once you make a choice of how you want your artwork to look like, and then you go ahead and you implement it with the help of these tools. Okay, with the help of tools like lines, color, shapes. Okay, these tools here now will aid the design of your of the concept that you have thought, of the concept that you want to address a certain problem. Are we together? Are we together? Hello. Are you still online? Hello? 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 Hello?
Yes, please.
You went off?
Yes, it seems so.
Yeah, because I was calling you, you are not responding. So I realized that maybe your network had issues.
Sorry.
Yeah, so have you tried to grasp what we call design?
Yes, design
Mm.
is to decide upon the look and function of something before it's made.
Yeah, and you design by thinking.
And problem solving.
And your thinking should be solving a certain problem. Okay. For example,
Yes.
if you are designing artwork, you are designing like a poster or a banner for a company,
Yes.
you should think about how best should you bring out the information. How best should you, maybe if the banner is marketing products from that company, you should think about how you should portray the products the company has. Okay, you should think about
Yes.
how best that design of yours should reach to the people who are going to view it, and they should be able to understand it practically and very fast.
Visually.
Yeah, visually. So that is what we call design. Okay. So we are also
Yes.
told that in graphic design, there are rules that can be considered. So whenever you are designing, you don't need to design just anyhow. I told you there are so many graphic designers out there, but a majority of them are not professionals. A majority of them went on just hand-picking the knowledge. So the moment I look at artwork designed by a graphic designer who just went on hand-picking the information, he learned this, learned just a portion from someone, learned another one from another person, like that. I can tell that that graphic designer is not professional. That graphic designer did not go to school, did not learn things professionally. So every graphic designer needs to be aware of the rules that can be considered while doing what we call designing. So that's why we have what we call principles of design. They are core principles that any graphic designer needs to be aware of. And being aware of, he should be able to implement them practically while designing his work for himself or even for clients. So we want to look at the principles of design.
Design.
Yeah, so we have them here. Every piece of artwork that you are going to design, you need to observe maximally these principles. You need to make sure you observe what we call contrast. You need to observe what we call hierarchy. You need to observe what we call alignment of your work. You need to observe what we call balancing. You should balance your work properly onto that page that you are going to design it. Not putting the information in a staggered way. You should make sure you make the best use of the page that you are going to design your work. So you balance the work properly. So you should make sure that your work, you look at the proximity of your work. Look at the repetition or else consistency. Your work should be consistent. The branding, you should be consistent according to the branding concept which is available to the company. So when you look at the pieces of the work that appear in this picture, are you seeing them?
Yes.
So you realize that there are pieces of work of different items, and this is a sample branding project of a company. You realize that there is consistency, there is contrast, the use of the colors matters. You should know which color should be used where, okay? And then you should know the hierarchy, what item comes first, which one shouts than the other, which one do you want the viewer to see more than the other, okay? That is what we call hierarchy. And then alignment, you should make sure your work is well aligned as you are preparing it or as you are designing it. And then you should also make sure that your work is very simple for someone to see and understand immediately somebody looks at it. You see, artwork, pieces of work like billboards, people don't have time to read billboards. Most of the time, somebody is driving or somebody is riding, but a billboard is meant to communicate to all audience, however much they are maybe driving in a car, somebody is moving maybe by a motorcycle. Somebody should be able to look at a billboard very fast and gets to understand what that billboard is communicating to someone. So that is where simplicity comes in. So your work should be simple. It should be simple. The choice of the fonts, the choice of the letters that you're going to use should be very simple and easy for someone to understand and interpret very fast. Because at the back of your mind, you need to know that the main reason as to why you are designing is to communicate. The main reason as to why you are designing is to solve a problem. And the problem you are solving is a lack of information. So you want to provide information about somebody's product or somebody's service. You understand? So your work should be simple as much as possible. Okay. So when you combine what we call visual elements, you remember the visual elements we talked about?
Visual elements.
Do you remember the visual elements we talked about?
Because that creates design.
Yeah. We talked about visual elements like light, color, and what else?
Color, shape,
texture,
space, form,
and typography. So when you combine those visual elements, okay, when you combine them with the design principles, when you combine those visual elements with the design principles, which we have just looked at, those are things like hierarchy, contrast, alignment. When you combine those elements together with those principles, then you come up with what we call graphic design. So graphic design basically is a combination of visual elements and design principles. Are we together?
Yes.
So graphic design is a combination of visual elements and design principles. So let's look at now my perspective, my definition of graphic design. And there it is. Can you kindly read it?
Graphic design is the origination and presentation of information developed through a creative process for a particular function.
Yeah, it's the organization. You see the words which are in blue, which are in sky blue color?
Yes.
Those are the keywords
Yes.
in that definition. When you are doing graphic design,
There.
you are going to organize and you are going to present information. Okay? So as a graphic designer, your work is always organizing and presenting information. Okay?
Yes.
So you are more or less a communications specialist. You are working to communicate, but you communicate through design. Okay?
Yes.
So you organize and you present information, but the information should be developed through a creative process. You have to be creative. Okay? You are not going to just put information in a blunt way. You have to find ways of being creative. Okay? And you have to find creative means of portraying information in a unique way. Do you always see billboards of MTN?
MTN billboards.
Yeah, do you see them when you are in town or when you are moving around?
I don't recall one.
Hey. Okay, you first copy that definition.
I'm due.
Are you done?
Mr. Judge, I'm done. Yes, I'm done.
So are you trying to really understand that that definition?
Yes.
Yeah. So it carries the main aspects or the main role that you are going to be doing as a graphic designer. For me, that is my perspective according to my experience, because I tried to analyze what do graphic designers do and what is their main purpose of existence. So that's why I came up with this definition, and I say graphic design is simply organizing and presenting information, and that information has to be developed through a creative process. Your creativity defines the uniqueness of that information that you are portraying to the public. And that information, remember, is meant for a particular reason or a particular function. It serves a particular function. So every company always designs, they ask for a design of something for a particular reason. There is no one who will ever tell you to design something if someone does not want to use that thing for something beneficial. They will always tell you to design something for a reason. You understanding?
Yes.
Yeah. So that is my perspective of graphic design. And however, it is only when we have a solid idea developed through the design process, we can use our skills with layout, color, typography, and creative tools, then we bring that idea to life. You understand what I'm trying to say from there?
Yes.
Yeah, what do you interpret from? What is your translation of what do you what comes into your mind after reading those words? What do you understand from there?
Only have a solid thing. Like the sky thing we talked about yesterday, no? So to uh, to create, no, to be more creative
Mm.
on the if I have an idea, if only I have a solid idea,
Mm.
and it concerns about the design I want to make, the designs I'm making,
Yeah.
I can, it's like adding it on the design through
Okay. So do you hear me?
yes.
Yeah. Here I'm trying to say that it's only when we have an idea. No, designing begins, it starts by thinking of an idea. Okay?
Yes.
Then for you to be able to implement that idea, you are going to undergo what we call a design process. Because trust me, after thinking of an idea, you are going to develop, you are going to design, you are going to present that idea, you are going to make it visual by designing. But when you are designing, you are going to undergo different processes. Well, I trust me, that idea will contain different items on it. For example, let us say you want to design like a logo. Do you see the Sharptech logo? This one here.
Yes.
This Sharptech logo was thought of. It was somebody had it as an idea. Then it had to undergo through the design process. Just like the way you see, there are letters, there is this item, there is a star, there is this line. So for you to come up with this as a logo, it has to undergo, you have to first think about it. After thinking about it, you have to subject it to undergo a design process. So you have to think about how you come up with a letter S, which is unique like this. You have to come up with letter A, which is unique like this. And then you combine the rest of the elements which are forming the logo. So even you, when you're a graphic designer, it all begins by you having a solid idea. You think about something, you imagine about something, and then you implement what you are imagining or what you are thinking about through doing what we call the design process. Of course, the design process here, I mean, you design different elements. You design different elements which are forming your imagination. So, but as you are designing, you have to use skills, different design skills which incorporate layout, color, typography, and creative tools. So just like this very logo, when you look at this logo, it has a certain layout. As you are seeing, the letters are laid on the same line, and then there is a line under in between these letters which are on top and these other letters which are below. Okay, so there is also
Yes.
an aspect of color. You see the combination of these colors, it makes this logo to appear, to look nice, not so? So color is also incorporated in the design process. And then we have typography. You can look at the different fonts. You see the word tag, it appears bolder than the others. Okay. And then you also have to use creative tools. Within the softwares that you are going to use for designing, there are creative tools which help you to design like a letter S, which is unique, a star, to break letter A, such that you have something like this. So when you combine the skills that you are going to learn, you should be able to implement the other solid idea that you thought, that you imagined, okay, about. So when you combine those skills together with the idea that you thought about, then you should be able to bring that idea to life. You should be able to come up with something reasonable. You should be able to expose your idea to the public. Are we together?
Yes.
Okay. So still here we have the visual elements that create design. We have a line, we have a color. These ones we have looked at them. We have a line, color, shape, texture, space. Okay, we are just trying to remind ourselves the visual elements that create design. We have a line, and we are going to look at each of them one by one. How does each of them help in the creation of a design? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So like for today, we are going to begin to look at line. Then tomorrow we shall look at maybe color and the shape. Okay. Until we complete all of them. So for today, we are going to begin by looking at a line as a visual element that helps you to create design. We are going to understand how a line is used in different pieces of design. So the first key element of design is a line. And a line is used as a visual element in graphic design. You are also notified that lines can be straight, can be curved, can be thick, can be thin, can be solid, or dashed. Yeah. So all these are different categories of lines. So when you are designing, you are free to use any of these types of lines. You are free to use straight lines. You are free to use curved lines. So it depends on your imagination. It depends on your creativity, and it depends on the nature of the artwork that you want to bring out. Okay. Yeah. So lines can be used to add structure to a composition, to frame information, and also to divide information. Those are the main uses of lines when you are designing. You can use a line to add what we call a structure. Later on, I will be showing you how a line can be used to add structure to your piece of artwork.
I'm noting this down.
Come again?
I'm noting this down.
Okay. So lines help you to add structure to a composition. Maybe you've thought of multiple items and you want to design all of them together, you can also use lines and they add structure to your composition. Okay?
Yes.
You can also use a line to frame your information. You will use it as a frame. I believe you understand what we call a frame.
A frame.
Yeah.
Yes. Like,
So
like a picture frame.
Yeah. So later on, I will show you how a line can be used as a frame. And then you can also use a line to divide information. In case you have a huge volume of work, but you want to divide it, you can use a line. Okay?
Yes.
I hope you're done.
I'm done.
Okay.
Yes.
So if lines are used considerately, they can add elegance to a composition. They also help to add hierarchy, and they also help you to draw the eye to a specific point.
To draw the eye.
To draw the eye to a specific point. So here
Like
I'm trying to say, if you want to emphasize a certain area and you want to attract the eyes of the person looking at that piece of work.
The attention.
Yeah.
The attention of a person.
Yeah, you want to pull somebody's attention to a specific point, you can use lines. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Are you copying this or I continue?
Let me note it down.
Come again?
Let me note it down.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I want to just show you samples or examples of pieces of artwork where lines have been used. Okay.
Yes.
So these are simple line examples. We have a thin line. We have a line of this size. We have a line of this size. We have, you can see there are lines. These are all different types of lines.
The two thick lines.
These ones are thick lines. This one and this one. Okay. And then we have these ones are thin lines, but there are two of them put together.
The double thin lines.
Yeah.
Or double lines.
Yeah, double thin lines. Then these are the dotted ones. These are the dashed ones. Okay. Then these are
we have two dashed.
Yeah, you can see, but this one is dashed but bold a little. Okay. So all these lines you see here, they are available there on the design software like Adobe Illustrator. We shall be seeing how to come up with them. Okay.
What about the last one? It's X line.
Yeah, it's like a letter X, but you know, you can form it, you can use just a shape, like you can draw like squares, and then you rotate them, and then you make them to link up at the edges. Then you should be able to come up with something like this. Okay.
Yes.
So you can see lines as used in designs. So these are different pieces of designs, but they all have lines. They have lines as elements of design. So like when you look at, this is an infographic, okay? It has lines as you are seeing. There are lines around, okay? So there are lines everywhere on this piece of artwork, even here. So here they are using a lines for stressing a word, okay? Here, a line is used in structure. You see these lines? There's a line here. There are these curves here. Remember we said the line can be curved, can be straight, okay? So these lines are used in the structure of the artwork. Here, lines are dividing. The lines are dividing the piece of the artwork. But let me just continue. Like a line in an infographic, you can see how different lines are used here. Okay. So line is used in the infographic. Then lines stressing a word. You see, whenever you look at where these lines are placed, there's a way it attracts your eyes to look at the information which is in between those lines, not so.
Yes.
So that
it's
means
not about there is.
So it means those lines they are playing a bigger role of emphasizing that area where they are to attract the attention of someone looking at that work. Okay. And then here lines are used as borders. You can see there is this outer line, it is working as a border.
Yes.
Then we have the middle one. It is also yeah, it is also working as a border. So they give you, they frame, actually they frame for you the work which is inside. And then on top of that, there's also a line here, it is separating this information and this other information. So those are different ways of using lines, okay? This is example number 3, and we are using lines in structure, but also decorating your artwork. You can see we have a black bold line, okay, a black thick line, and then we are having these horizontal lines. So they are used in the structure of the whole work, but also they help you in decorating your work. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and then we have lines are being used for dividing your work. As you see, we have this top part. Then to divide, just place a line. We have this area, okay? To divide, put a line here, put another line here, okay? Then we have another line.
Are these the same lines they use in newspapers?
Yeah, so this one is like a page that is extracted from a newspaper. So when you look at that news, most of the newspapers, you will realize that they use lines, and some of the lines they use those lines that I showed you at first. Any of them, so it depends on the creativity and what the designer wants to implement. So you have liberty to select whichever line you want to use to beautify or to make the outlook of your work. Yeah. So here lines are used as decoration. Do you see? These slanting
Yes.
lines, they are decorating this piece of work. So you have text here, you have another text here, then at this corner there is a decoration, at this other corner there is also a decoration. So those are all the different ways of. So we are told that there are lots of ways how lines can be used in design, and the ones you have just looked at are just a few ways, but there are more ways of using lines. And those more ways, they depend on the creativity of you, the designer. How it depends on the way you want your idea to be brought to life. How do you want something that you are imagining to be brought to life? How do you want it to be observed visually? Okay? Yeah, so today's assignment, as we are coming to the end of today's session, can you read it?
Try to look out for anyone, for any designed and printed pieces of work. Observe and identify how lines were used as an element of design. Let me write my assignment down.
Okay, you write it, because tomorrow I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to tell me whether you did it and what were your findings. So you can try to look out.
For any designed and printed piece of work.
Yeah, it may be a magazine, it may be a poster, a flyer, it may be a banner, it may be a billboard, it may be a newspaper. The one which is already existing, which is already printed. Yeah.
Observe and identify how lines were used. Let me first. Mr. George.
Yes.
So I'll have to write them down, my observation.
Yeah, you write them down, and then tomorrow you will explain.
Like how I get a magazine.
Yeah, you can get a magazine. You observe it. You look at different pages, and if possible, you can take pictures of that work, of that magazine, those pages that you've looked at, and they have the lines. Then you send me on WhatsApp. Then I will look at them. Then you explain. You are.
I explain about WhatsApp.
No. You can.
Tomorrow.
You can explain. I will show you. I will show you how you can explain. Maybe you can put your video on, and then you show me the magazine, and then you explain what you are seeing from there. You will put your camera on. Is it okay?
Yes, but I don't have a magazine at all. I might look on Google for a magazine.
If you are going to look on Google, then you download them, and then you send them on WhatsApp, and then if possible, you can also explain them on WhatsApp. since you're just going to download.
How about I would like to write down the what? The ways of lines I use, like decoration.
Yeah, you can. You had not written that information.
No.
Yeah, so maybe let me share this whole presentation with you after our meeting. I'll send you on WhatsApp.
Okay.
I'll share these slides with you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I will send you the after here. I'm going to set up for the assignment because I might forget.
Okay, please.
Mm.
Okay, so that has been today, and briefly we have looked at the definition of design according to Google. Okay, we have looked at the definition of design, graphic design according to Google, and that's what the
And
Google said. And then we also looked at it according to my perspective, where we had to break down graphic design into two words, and that is graphic and the design. Okay, and then we said graphic means something visual, which is your artwork, which is your imagination, where you are expressing something through different mediums, which may involve a drawing, a painting, engraving, or just by lettering. Okay. And then we looked at the visual elements. Of course, if graphic is visual, then it must have elements which are there must be elements which are visual, and those elements include a line. We have lines, color, shape, texture, space, form, and typography. And then, yeah, and then we also looked at design. We said design is to decide upon the look and the function of something before it is made.
So it's made.
Yeah, and design is done through thinking, and the thinking helps you to come up with a solution to a problem. And yeah, and it is done practically. Okay. So when you combine, of course, also when you're designing, when you're doing what we call graphic design, as a professional, you should be aware about the principles of design. They are so much important. I told you, whenever I look at work designed by people, I can tell whether someone is a professional designer or someone is just a gambler, or just someone who just went on handpicking the knowledge. And those principles are here. They include contrast. You have to reflect them. Those things, they must be reflected on your piece of work that you're designing. The contrast must be clear. Then contrast is like the level of clarity of your work. For example, if you are using a color, you can see my work here. And the word key principles of design, and then this other information. The contrast is just perfect because I have made sure that you are able to see, whoever looks at this work can be able to see the work clearly because of the choice of the colors and the background. You see the background is white, and then the text, the color of the text is totally different. So that means the contrast of the text and the background, it is selected professionally or perfectly. So that makes it very easy for someone to read this information just because the contrast, I catered the contrasting issues as far as this page was concerned. because the main reason as to why I was laying it out is to portray this information such that this information can be read easily. So poor contrasts would include having a background which does not bring out these text properly. So the choice of your contrast, you should make sure that the background and the information you are portraying, they don't contradict each other. They don't conflict. Okay. Yeah, people should be able to see the information clearly without spending a lot of time. Then hierarchy, you should mind about which information should outshadow the rest. Which information you want the viewer to see first than the rest of the information. Okay, like
information.
Like when you look at this page, I want someone looking at this information to see this heading first. That's why you see it is bigger than these other ones. It is bigger than this list. So the hierarchy followed here is somebody has to see this heading first before seeing this list.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to cater for the hierarchy. In any work that you're designing, there must be some element that you want people to see more than the rest. There must be something you want someone to see before goes on looking other things. Yeah. Then alignment, you should align your work very well. Then you should make sure you balance it. Then the proximity of your work should also be looked at. The repetition, simplicity.
Pardon me on proximity.
Proximity is I don't know which other word can I use to refer to proximity. I wonder which other English word I can use. Proximity is how do you want that work to be relating? How do you want the elements that you are designing? How do you want it to be relating? And how much space are you planning to put between one element to another? So what space do you have to put in between the different elements that are there in your work? That is what we call proximity. So you have to make sure the spacing is perfect, the level of spacing and the way the items must be portrayed. It must be professional.
Okay. Spacing.
Yeah, spacing. You should assign equal spacing. Just like you see this list. You see this list here. Proximity looked at. You can see the space between this dot and this word. It is the same space between this dot and this other information.
Oh, yes. It's not the same as balance.
Balancing is a little different in such a way that you have to mind about the positioning of your content. You have to put it at the exact in a balanced way, in such a way that the information caters the center part of the page. Just like when you are taking a picture of a person, you have to make sure the person is in the middle of the camera. Yeah. Then your work should be simple for someone to understand. Then repetition. Repetition, I'm trying to talk about consistency. You know, every company always wants to be consistent. So the choice of the colors has to be consistent. You should be able to repeat, to use the same color that was used in the other pieces of artwork. Because when we are looking at what we call branding, each company has its colors. So you are not supposed to use colors which are out of the company's brand. Like MTN, you know, MTN's main color is yellow, not so.
Yes.
So when you are designing work for MTN, you are supposed to work within the yellow color. and you don't start using another color like purple.
Yes.
There you are breaking this principle of repetition or consistency. And then your work should be simple enough. And basically, those are the main principles of design. And then we looked at
The function.
the function as a
Mm.
principle of design. Of course,
Yes.
each element that you are going to put in your design has got a main function. Let us, for example, assuming I have put this logo on my artwork, what is the main function? I should be aware about the function of this logo. It is not a matter of having the logo appear on your artwork. You can design work without a logo, but what is the main function of each element that you are going to present in your artwork? Okay, so you should mind about the function of different elements. If you decided to put a logo, if you decide to put an icon for a phone, what is the function of that icon? So you should be aware about it as you are designing. Are we together?
Yes.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So we said when you combine the visual elements and the design principles together, then you come up with what we call graphic design.
Design.
Okay. So graphic design is a combination of visual elements like lines, shapes, and so on, together with the design principles. So it means as you are designing, as you are designing, you have to mind about these. You have to incorporate these principles in your design. As you are designing, something like as you are designing maybe a line, a color, as you are designing a shape, you have to mind about these principles here. So when you combine those elements together with these principles, then you can be able to come up with what we call professional graphic design. Are we together?
Yes.
Yeah. So finally, my definition was here that graphic design is organization and the presentation of information, which is developed through a creative process, and that information should be for a particular use or function.
Function.
Okay.
For a particular reason.
Yeah. Can be a particular reason, can be a particular use, can be a particular function. Yeah. I told you, we design work for a reason. We don't just design work for fun. Maybe if you are just learning, then you can design work for fun. But let's assume you are employed. You have completed a course, and now you are already employed. You will always design work for a particular reason. Okay. Yeah, then we looked at this, we said it is only when we have a solid idea. So designing something begins by you having a solid idea, and then you put that idea through a design process where you are going to use skills like layout, color, typography, and then creative tools, which are available in different programs. So when you incorporate these items together, then you should be able to bring that idea that you have thought of to life, and then people will be able to look at it. You will be able to communicate to the public through your design. Okay, so these are the visual elements that we are going to look at. So today we have looked at line, So tomorrow we're going to look at possibly color and shape, if time allows us, until we complete all of them. Okay? But we shall look at them one on one until we complete them. I hope you've understood something about lines, how they are useful, and how they can be used while designing.
I want to know. I just okay. How lines can be used? I only know they can be used as decorations,
Mhm.
background,
Mm.
and decoration. I'm done with it.
They are here in different ways.
They can be
You can use a line for
decoration.
stressing a word. You can use a line. You can use them as borders.
I'm going to take a screenshot of this one.
Okay.
I'll use this information to do my assignment.
Okay. So you'll be referring to this particular one.
Yes. Can you? Is it possible to have one on the screen,
Yeah.
like using infographics?
Mhm. Yeah. I go to the next.
Yes.
Mhm.
Done.
Mhm.
I'm also done with it. Finished. Done.
Mhm.
It's like I'll send you a screenshot of the work, then I'll be like decoration lines.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is okay.
Okay. That.
Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you so much for being active, and I hope you've learned something new today.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, so see you tomorrow. Our meeting is most likely to be running every day, Monday to Friday at this particular time, from 4. So you just keep on taking the same link. Okay?
Mr. Jules,
Yes.
I'm going to send you only 6 pictures because I'm having 6. Or should I send? Um,
Yeah, it is okay.
okay, 6 I will find.
Yeah, 6 are fine. Just look at and observe carefully. Okay. See you tomorrow. And in case of anything, we shall be engaging on WhatsApp.
Okay.
Okay. Bye for today.